Hello, everyone, and welcome to our February 9th, 2021 meeting. I will call this meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for coming online today, and I can see all of our council members are present, which is great. And I just want to mention that we did a little bit of shifting around in the township with staff, and we are happy to announce that we now have a recreations manager. And that is Amy Gross. She'll be taking over that recreation manager. And I see we have Lucas online here. And Lucas, congratulations on the manager of Parks, Facilities, and Cemetery, your new position. So it's great to have both those positions put in place to make sure that our township is doing everything we can to make our citizens happy and our grounds looking great. So thank you for both of those people. And for Manny and the team working to get those positions put in place rather quickly. I know that Marlene has been wanting a Parks Rec person for a while, so it's a very good thing to have. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Well, they'll have our confirmation of minutes. That the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on January 26, 2021 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda package. That's moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Douglas. All those in favor? That's carried. If any matters riding for the minute, I don't see any. We'll move right down to item number 6, which is matters under the Planning Act. So we'll go right into the Planning Act. This is a public meeting now under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies and to give consideration to an application for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The subject lands are located at 8590 Concession 3. The purpose and effect is to rezone the retained agricultural portion to prohibit any future residential development. We'll now hear from Clerk Wheeler.
Hello, everyone. Staff confirmed the following. Property owners and agencies were provided with the required notice on January 20th. Proper postings were completed on January 20th. Planning report dated January 28th was received and included in the agenda package. Chief Richardson comments indicate no concerns. DRCA comments state no objection. CBL Patty Wright comments indicate no concerns. Wellington Source Water Protection comments state the application can be screened out, and no concerns were received from ratepayers.
Thank you, Clerk Wheeler. And now we have Township Planner comments, and I don't know if it's going to be Matt or Linda. One of you two are going to speak to this.
It is myself. Thank you. Through you, Chair, before you today is a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject lands from agricultural to agricultural site specific. The applicant has received conditional approval on severance application B6420 under the surplus farm dwelling policies. And under these policies, a standard condition is placed that the retained farmlands are rezoned to prohibit any future residential. All in all, the application conforms to the zoning bylaw, official plan, and provincial policies. And planning staff have no concerns with the application. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Do the owners, William and Michelle Park, have any comments? Any further comments? All right. Are there any oral comments from those attending through Zoom? Please indicate and state your name and address for the record. We will first hear from those in support of the zoning amendment and then those opposed. Anybody here wishing to speak in support of the application? Anybody wishing to speak that is opposed to the application? All right, we'll open up to council members. Any questions from council members on this one? Councillor Ottens.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Davidson. I'm just curious, actually. It says that the severed portion prevents any future development. The aerial shot shows it looks like there's already buildings there. So Is that just old, or are they gone now? Or does that just mean nothing else can be built after this point?
So let me just pull up the report really quick.
I'm just looking on page. What page would that be? Page 16 of our agenda. I'm not sure what page of the report. Just that aerial shot shows that there are, looks like buildings on the parcel of land.
On the retain, sorry?
Yeah, that would be the part outlined in red, correct?
Okay. I can't find it in the package. Actually, is this it here? But if you might be referencing, does it look like some accessory structures?
It's an aerial shot. It's hard to say. I'm just curious, they're allowed to be there, or are they not there anymore? Or does the zoning mean nothing else can be added?
So it's only residential. That's what the zoning's prohibiting.
Okay.
I do know offhand from the consent application. I didn't actually do this zone amendment, but from the consent application, and I believe the applicants are on the line, but they do have two Quonsets that are on the retained parcel, and that I was told that those are being sold as we speak. So those structures that you might see in the aerial might be referencing to those Quonsets that will no longer be there once the property's sold.
Okay, I was just wondering. Thank you.
Any further questions from members of council? Okay, seeing none, I will now close this public meeting. Thank you for attending the public meeting. I do have a resolution here that zoning application ZBA 2020-16 located at part lot 4, concession 2, west 8590, concession 3, William and Michelle Park be received. And further, that the draft amending bylaw as circulated in the agenda package be presented to council for first, second, and third reading. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Douglas. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the next application, we have another public meeting under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies and to give consideration to an application for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The subject lands are located at 7370 Wellington Road 7. Purpose and effect is to rezone the subject lands to prohibit a residential dwelling on the retained agricultural portion of the property, increase the total maximum floor area of all existing accessory buildings on the severed lands to 721 meters squared, and to permit a home industry in an existing barn. This rezoning is a condition of severance application B36/20 that was granted provisional approval by the Wellington County Land Division Committee. We'll now hear from Clerk Wheeler.
Again, staff confirmed the following. Property owners and agencies were provided with the required notice on January 20th. Proper postings were completed on January 20th. Planning report dated February 2nd was received and included in the agenda package. Chief Richardson comments indicate no concerns. GRCA comments state no objection. CBO Wright comments indicate no concerns. Wellington Source Water Protection comments dated February 1st state the application can be screened out. And finally, no concerns were received from ratepayers.
Thank you, Clerk Wheeler. And now we'll hear from the Township Planner. Matt?
Perfect. Thank you. Through you, Chair. Bear with me. It's a little bit longer than my typical speech, but before you today is a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject lands from agricultural to agricultural site specific. The applicant has received conditional approval on severance application B3620 under the surplus farm dwelling policies. And as you mentioned, the zone amendment is seeking relief for 3 items. The first being to restrict residential development on the farm parcel, approximately 47 acres, which is a standard condition of the surplus farm policies. The second being relief to the maximum floor area for the following accessory structures. So one, a shop at 2,077 square feet, a garage at approximately 1,100 square feet, and an existing calf barn, which is the proposed vehicle storage structure at approximately 4,600 square feet, let's say. And the third request is to permit a vehicle/trailer storage business on a residential parcel, approximately 3.36 acres in size. So all in all, planning staff have no concerns with the request to rezone the farmlands to restrict the residential and the retention of the existing shop and garage on the residential property. However, we are not in a position to support the offsite storage business or the retention of the barn on the subject property. Just to touch on some provincial policies. So in the prime agricultural areas, permitted uses include agricultural uses, ag-related uses, and on-farm diversified uses. The proposal before you does not align with any of these permitted uses, given that the use is not secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property and would not be characterized as a farm-related commercial business that's directly related to farm operations in the area. To add, the PPS stipulates on-farm diversified uses do not apply to small residential lots in prime agricultural areas. The OP does outline some policies for home businesses as well as farm businesses. And once again, in line with provincial policy, they must be secondary to the main use of the property as a means of supplementing farm income. The intent of the official plan is that these businesses are located on farms. The applicant has categorized the proposed use as a home industry. However, planning staff have deemed it is not the case, given that home industries require the business to be secondary to a farm. The proposed use does not align with permitted use in the home industry section, and furthermore does not meet the minimum 25 acre minimum lot area for a home industry. Lastly, the combined total accessory structure size is about 3 times that what would be permitted on a 3.36 acre residential lot. And again, the intent of the bylaw is that a small rural residential lot be limited to its accessory structures. With that said, I welcome any questions, and I can see Linda's here, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them as well. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. I believe we have Jeff Boozma here to speak to the application. Is that true, Jeff?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, if I could share my screen for a minute, and I'd like to just bear with me. I'm not gonna for a minute. So just as mentioned, the application is for as Matt has discussed, this is for a surplus farm resident severance. The first part of the application is straightforward, and Matt has already explained support, and that is to have no residence on the retained parcel. The severed piece would contain the existing house and accessory buildings. The second part of the application is to allow for additional accessory buildings. In there, there's a garage, there's a shop, and there's the calf barn. As a result of this surplus farm resident severance, the calf barn is going to stop operation. And so the Wiersmans would really love to make use of that old calf barn. The planning, Matt has explained that, so of the 3 buildings, we have the garage that is 107 square meters, the shop is 193 square meters, and the calf barn is 421. The planning staff, no problem keeping the garage and the shop of 107 and 193. Together they add up to 300 square meters, which is just slightly above the maximum of 269. and there's support for that. I think the issue of this application comes down to the calf barn and whether, and the desire to keep it. The calf barn was built in about 2003. It's a fairly good, and it's a good and reliable, strong structure. The plan, the idea is to remove the calf related things like fans and pens and then make use of it. The Wiersmas would really just want to look at the merits of the practicalness. They feel like it's wasteful to remove a perfectly good building. There's a demand out there for storage of RV or classic car type storage. The proposal is to use it for indoor use only. There'll be no signs on the road. This is on County Road 7, a major road. And so there'd be no additional impact, traffic impact, as person storing a RV would typically come twice a year, once to drop it off and once to pick it up. Most importantly, we see that we feel that there's no negative impact on agriculture. And if anything that I read through the policies, the provincial policies, OP policies, and the zoning bylaws, really, we got to make sure that agriculture is protected. And provide you the comment or the opinion that we feel that there's no negative impact on agricultural activity. We have the reality that there's demand. There's a demand of this type of service. The Wiersmas did a bit of Facebook market research and found that the demand jumped. It was very quick response. People interested in this type of storage. I mean, we drive around the countryside. We see places that have trailers and so on stored in the country. And I guess the biggest thing is those things take a lot of space. And out in the country is probably the space where it can come at a reasonable cost. Sometimes you would say outside trailer storage would be an eyesore, and I would tend to agree on that. So definitely the proposition here is to just keep it an indoor activity only, and certainly no outdoor storage at all. It's not a large business for the Wiersmas. It'll be a very small business. It doesn't require any staff. It'll be just managed from the house. It's not a big business or big activity. It won't have very much impact at all. I appreciate the review of the policies. We also provided a bit of a presentation, a review of the policies, and we looked at different things where you might consider this to be a very simple home industry. Yes, we recognize that it's not on the 10 acre or 25 acre type parcel, but it is an opportunity to provide an economic activity out in the country. Feel like it's just an opportunity to really not waste a building. So really, at the end of the day, the extra request that we're making for here is to initially, of course, allow for the two accessory buildings, that's the garage and the shop, to be 300 square meters. But beyond that, we're asking for this calf barn to stay and to be used for this type of RV storage. And I know that the Wiersmas wanted to address it as well.
Is that everything, Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Right. Thank you very much. Are there any oral comments from those attending through Zoom? Please indicate so and state your name and address for the record. We'll first hear from those in support and then those that are opposed. Anybody wishing to speak to this that are in support?
Tara and Eileen Wiersma.
Go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, so we have written a letter, it kind of summarizes what Jeff has already said, and we agree with everything that Jeff has done for us, and we thank him for that. We would like to discuss the possibility of keeping the existing structure of our calf barn. We understand that it does not currently meet the guidelines set in place by the County of Wellington planning policies. While we understand that there is good reason for the rules and regulations to be in place, we feel that an exception could be made here. It is our desire to repurpose the calf barn into a recreational storage facility. Today, we very much exist in a throwaway society, And although changes have been seen as people become more aware of the importance of recycling and repurposing, demolishing this calf barn will only negate the push for positive change. The building is in great shape and could be well utilized for storage means. It is by no means an eyesore to the agriculture area that we live in. We recognize the building does not fit within the allowance of the square footage for an accessory building. However, our hope is that we may shift your perspective, as demolishing an existing recent 2003 built barn is an injustice to the environment, as it can be utilized and repurposed for recreational storage. Our ask of the council is not to build a new building on our rural residential property. Rather, keep this existing building in place. Allowing us to repurpose the structure will keep unnecessary building material out of landfills and mitigate the costly endeavor of demolition, as this building still has so much potential. In addition to the environmental impact, we found that there is a demand for this type of storage in our community. By doing a short survey on Facebook through the Alma community page, we found a lot of people were interested in indoor seasonal storage. Also, we plan to operate the recreational storage business with a low profile, using only indoor storage, no signage. Our goal is not to have any negative impact on the agricultural activity in our area. We ask that the council will have favor on our case, as keeping the existing building in place poses no threat to our community. Rather, it is a means of support for us and to those in our community looking to rent part of our potential storage building. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in support of this application? Anybody opposed wishing to speak? Okay, so now if there's any questions from council members, we'll go there. So before we do that, Matt, so if I understand this correctly, it doesn't meet provincial policy statement. It doesn't meet the official plan. It doesn't meet the zoning bylaw. The home industry is for 25 acres, so it doesn't meet that. And there's too much building for the lot size. Do I have all that?
Correct.
All right. So council, we open it up for questions. I will direct your attention, council, to page 37 of the provincial policy statement, where it says the rezonings are subject to the provincial policy statement. Decisions of council are required to be consistent with it. At the bottom of that, the proposed vehicle storage business does not meet either criteria permitted within the prime agriculture areas that is located on a farm, nor is it agriculture related for the purposes of the provincial policy statement. So that said, I will open it up for council. Councilor Douglas, or sorry, Councilor Craven.
I have a couple of people at Alma that complain to me once in a while with all the motorhomes and trailers parked in driveways. They didn't realize that they lived at a campground. So there is definitely a demand to store these places. But I really don't believe that this is the place to store them on this small piece of land. Because it doesn't meet everything that you mentioned, Greg. I'm not going to be able to support this.
Further questions from council? Councilor Douglas?
Yes, through your worship, not so much a question, but I really struggle with these types of applications because I totally understand everything that the applicants are saying about wasting a building that's in perfectly good shape just by adding some imaginary property lines around it from what was there previously. But I'm struggling with the precedent that we've set on a few of these other applications. So I'm just not sure that I can support it right now without, thinking back to the other ones that we've not supported. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Councilor Douglas. Other comments, questions, Councilor Ottens?
Thank you. If the severance had been 25 acres, would this type of industry have been allowed at that point then? Or is this only allowed on a full-fledged 100-acre farm to store these sorts of vehicles?
Matt?
Thanks for your question. So it's difficult to say just looking at that from a 25 acres. Most likely a 25-acre severance wouldn't have been supported in the first place. So to kind of go down that path is speculative. The other thing the 25 acres, it has to be secondary to a farm. So in some imaginary world, if there was 25 acres, there had to be a farm operation. And even then, beyond that, there's a piece, the storage business doesn't quite align with what in on-farm diversified, as well as the home industry provisions kind of set out as the cookie cutter standard for a permitted use. That being, like a farm stand or a welding shop, things of that nature. So it doesn't quite align perfectly. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's tough to kind of look at this scenario.
Follow up,
But-
Councilor Martin?
But there are farmers who do allow people to store like rec vehicles in their barns or shops over the winter when they have a full farm. So I guess my question is, what are the options for people who do want to store these vehicles? Where could a business like that exist then?
Mm-hmm. So a storage business, in my review, it would most likely be suited in an industrial area. And most likely that'd be in an urban area.
Linda?
Just to add to that, the home industry, in the PPS, the on-farm diversified uses that are only allowed as part of a farm operation, they specifically state that off-site season storage is not permitted, even in those scenarios. So it's not typical of an on-farm diversified type of use that's normally permitted. With respect to the other locations, elsewhere in the county, aside from the industrial areas in an urban area, we have secondary agricultural designated lands in other parts of the county. And in that type of area, that's where you could have convert a barn for like this into this type of use. That would be permitted in those areas. So there are other areas in the county that do permit this type of thing in a larger, like on a farm or a small farm operation.
Thank you. Other questions from members of council this time? Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, almost 7,700 square feet of accessory structures is, I mean, I would love that. I think anyone would want that type of flexibility, right? I think if I've learned anything on council, it's that accessory structures are the root of all evil when it comes to creating problems. And certainly not trying to say the Wiersmas by any means, but who knows what would happen 10, 15 years down the road. This is really the only opportunity to bring the property a little closer to being in line with normal. And, as far as the diversified use home industry, one could argue that's been bastardized terrifically across Mapleton already. Like we've got commercial, industrial type, industries existing on farms, but it's allowed. And this is specifically listed as being an issue. So I don't know. I struggle with it because of the, as the Wiersma has indicated, there's that whole, waste not, want not thing about ripping down a perfectly good building. Farmers certainly enjoy a lot of flexibility when it comes to accessory structures as part of a farm use. And I think when you sever off a farm or have a surplus farm dwelling, that should be the expectation that flexibility disappears with it as well, and that it becomes it has to fall in line with the residential use. Looks like a beautiful spot out in the country. Jealous, even without the calf barn. I think it'll be, obviously a beautiful spot. But I think I'll support the planner's position on this one.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. So I do have a resolution here that zoning application ZBA 2021-01 located at Part Lot 16 South, Concession 13 East, 7370 Wellington Road 70, Wiersma TNA be received for information, but we need some direction on here. From what I see, council is not going to allow the barn to be be allowed to stay. So I'm going to need some direction. Either Linda or Matt, can you add to this how we can do this resolution to make it work for you guys? Linda?
So you can direct staff to prepare an amending bylaw to permit the restriction of the residential on the farm parcel, and also to permit the accessory structures on the residential parcel, we'll say, because they exceed what's allowed. So we would have to do like a site-specific exemption to allow them to have the larger structures. And you can direct staff to prepare that draft bylaw to include whatever accessory buildings you feel is appropriate. So you can say, include the shed and the shop, the shed, the garage and the shop, and the barn, or just the garage and the shop, as we've recommended. The only thing I'd ask is if you do want the barn to stay as, and to permit this business, then be specific about that, because we'd have to prepare the draft bylaw to allow the business as well.
From what I heard from council, they weren't going to allow the calf barn to remain. So if that is that what I understand from members of council? Yeah. So I don't know if Clerk Wheeler, you got all that down that Linda had suggested, but we do have the receipt for information, direct staff to amend the bylaw to keep the two structures, but not to keep the calf barn. Does that sound good to council? Any comments or questions on that, or any further discussion? Councillor Ottens.
Yeah, I'm just never a fan of tearing down perfectly good buildings. I mean, we've gone through this before and I've expressed the same sentiment on that. So that's all. I realize that there are policies, but I also realize we can make exceptions if we want to. But I feel like I'm in the minority here, so that's just where I stand.
Councillor Craven.
I agree with Marty. I'm not in favor of tearing down good solid buildings, but I am also not in favor of having storage places like that really don't belong there. Approved.
Thank you. For me, I'm with you. I'm with all of you. Taking down a building is not something I like to do. As a chair of solid waste, the last thing I want to do is have more garbage go into our landfill or anywhere else. However, we do have to follow provincial policy statement and the official plan and the zoning, and this thing misses on so many marks. So I'm going to call the vote on what was stated, what Linda stated, without the calf barn being removed. All those in favor of that removal of the calf barn and everything else goes. Councillor Martin, you got a thought, question? I can have Clerk Wheeler read it all out to you, but
he doesn't look like he wants to. I was just going to offer to be a mover, to be honest.
okay. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Douglas. All right, all those in favor? And that's carried. And those opposed? That's carried. Thank you all. Public meeting is concluded. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Which is item 6.3. And it reads that the planning report dated January 18, 2021 regarding the extension of part lot control exemption PLC 2021-01 for a further 3-year period to be received. And further, that corresponding draft bylaw be approved and staff directed to forward a true copy of the original bylaw document to the County of Wellington Planning and Development Department. That's a lot there. Does anybody need to speak to this? Any questions, comments from council members on this? Linda? Any,
I can answer any questions if you want, or I can explain it. It's up to you.
okay. Any questions, comments from council then? All right, I need a mover and a seconder, please, on that. Moved by Councillor Douglas, second by Councillor Ottens. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the next item. Resolution 6.4 in the agenda package. That the Township of Mapleton Council support consent to application B1-21 as presented for lands described as part lot 18, concession 11, with the following conditions. That the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That payment be made of the fee of $266 for a letter of clearance. That a parkland dedication fee be paid of $1,400, that driveway access be provided to the severed lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that servicing can be accommodated on the severed and retained lands to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton, that the applicant provides a municipal drain reapportionment of mutual agreement as determined by the drainage superintendent as per the applicable township's fees and charges bylaw, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be submitted to the township. And further, that council authorizes the municipal clerk to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee of the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on the completion. Whew. All right. I need a mover and a seconder of that, please. Councillor Martin, Councillor Douglas, thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Craven?
The issue with the frontage has been resolved successfully, I understand.
Manny?
So if you're talking about the second entrance,
Yeah.
it has, we worked with the Martins on the industrial drive, and they were very good to work with, and of course we appreciate that. And they were able to work something out with them to make sure that there's a secondary access for them to use, so they don't go through Mr. Donker's goods property.
Good.
Perfect, thank you. Other questions, comments from council? And all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations today or matters rising from delegations. We have reports from staff. Right now we got the building department. The Township of Mapleton Council received building department report BD 2021-02 dated February 9th, 2021 regarding January month end and year to date. And moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Ottens. Perfect. And Patty, you're up.
I really have nothing to add to the report, but I'd be happy to field any questions.
Any questions for Patty? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Moving right along here. Now for a fun one, the Clean and Clear bylaw. I don't know who came up with the name, but Clean and Clear bylaw. The Township of Mapleton Council received Building Department Report BD 2021-03 regarding the Clean and Clear bylaw, and that council approved the Clean and Clear bylaw 2021. Moved by Craven, Councillor Martin seconded. Perfect. Questions, comments right now, or actually, Patty, do you want to talk about this one?
This is a bylaw, thank you, through you, Mayor. This is a bylaw that's been in place. It's just been updated to meet more of the current situation and needs to promote public safety around ice on sidewalks and roads. Just better gives us tools in the toolbox to help make sure we can enforce those situations.
Perfect. And it's a great idea to have those things in place for the drainage of the sump pumps. Councillor Douglas.
Yes, through you, your worship. Just a question or clarification. So there's a number of lots that I've noticed that are back to front draining, where the sump pumps discharge into the side yard swale, and then the swale outlets across the sidewalk to the municipal right of way. So in the definitions here, where like what it refers to an approved swale, would that be a situation where that would be an acceptable outlet for a sump pump?
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, the swales are meant to contain all runoff. Every property needs to contain its own runoff. So if it is outletting onto the sidewalk and causing ice and a public hazard, then we'd have to look at some grading issues and resolve that. And this gives us more authority to do so.
Do you have a follow-up, Councilor Douglas?
Well, I'm just, most in subdivisions, most side yard swales, you know, aren't containing drainage. They are outletting across the sidewalks. I'm just not sure how that, you know, how you retain that drainage on a property with a standard graded lot.
Dig a bigger hole.
That's a very good way to do it, Mayor. So what we're looking at here though is the sump pump discharge, where you're pumping it directly into a swale and discharging onto the sidewalk, and it's causing ice. So if that is the case, then you need to discharge to your rear yard.
Thank you, Councilor Douglas.
Right, but again, the situation on our back to front draining lot doesn't solve that, because it's just going to drain out to the front. So I think we're just creating issues here that don't have a clear solution to them for a number of lots. That's just my concern. So I just don't know how the enforcement would work.
I think that's where the building department and Patty and the team come in to look at the problem and see what they can do to work with the landowner or landowners in this case, if it's between two homes, to rectify the problem of it going onto the sidewalks. And that might mean a little bit of different grading. Could mean a lot of different things, but it's something that this allows the building department to actually work with the landowners to rectify the problem. Councilor Martin.
Thank you. Yeah, no, as long as we're not creating a bigger problem, because what we don't want is some pumps being discharged into our wastewater system. And that's going to be the go-to. If you can't discharge it anywhere because of the grading on your lot, if there's going to be issues that way, you're going to stick it in your wastewater system and you're going to walk away. And, you know, we're trying to limit those types of groundwater, rainwater, you know, all that stuff in our wastewater. So as long as we're prepared to create solutions, and hopefully, like Patty said, this bylaw update gives her some more tools, then I think that'd be a good thing, as long as we're not creating a monster.
I don't think the intent of this was to create a monster, but to solve an icing problem and allow the building department to work with the community members to alleviate the problem from happening. I know there's some issues out there where the land is low riding. I know a couple of homes where the sidewalk's low as well, and everything pools there, regardless of where you put the sump pump. There's just everything pools there. So there are some issues that we have to solve as a township with some of these low areas of the sidewalks, and there are some that the building department needs to work with the landowners to solve a problem in there. But we do have a number of residents who are discharging right near to the sidewalk. There are some pumps, and I walk the community quite often, and I've noticed it, where the discharge hose is probably about 5 feet from the sidewalk, pointing towards the sidewalk. So that does cause an issue. Further questions, comments? Councillor Craven.
Yeah, there is a solution in Alma. There's a guy there that discharges it onto the street most of the year. There is a drain at the back of those properties that they could hook into, and it goes into a municipal drain further away on the other side of the subdivision. This guy discharges onto the street most of the year. And maybe this bylaw would be able to get after him to hook up to that drain at the back of his property, instead of causing a problem on the street all the time.
If I may, through you, Mayor.
You go ahead.
And that's exactly the type of situation we're trying to alleviate. We are not going to resolve all the issues with one bylaw, but this does give us the power to alleviate the unnecessary situations.
And as I stated, it's for us to work with the community to make it better walkable as part of our strategic plan. We want to make a walkable community, and this fits right into that. To give our staff tools to make that happen. Further questions, comments? All right, this has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the clean and clear bylaw? Opposed? That's carried. Moving on to the next item, we got the Finance Department, item 9.21. That Finance Report FIN 2021-04 dated February 9th, 2021 regarding some reporting on our county planning fee increase be received for information, and further that the finance recommendation of changes to fees and charges contained within this report be incorporated into the fees and charges bylaw effective March 1st, 2021. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas. Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Morrison.
Through you, Your Worship, this report's only passing along the fee increases that the county imposed in late December of 2020. I have nothing more to add unless there's some questions with respect to what we're doing.
Thank you. Questions from members of council on this fees and charges change for planning? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Next, we have item 9.22, that Township of Mapleton Council received finance report FIN 2021-05 dated January 22nd, 2021 regarding RLB LLP Chartered Accountants Audit Engagement Letter as information. Mover, please. Councillor Martin, seconder, Councillor Craven. Mr. Morrison.
Again, Your Worship, what's being provided here is a standard communication that the audit firm would like to present to council, outlining your roles, your responsibilities, the staff's roles and responsibility, a little bit about the audit plan, when field work would be conducted, and what is considered material in nature that would require an adjustment to our financial statements.
Thank
If there's
you.
any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions from council on this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Got the approval of bylaws. That bylaws numbered 2021-011 down to 2021-014. Be hereby ready first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with a corporate seal. Moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Martin. Any questions on these? All those in favor? That's carried. Any correspondence for council's direction? And we move down to item number 12. We have correspondence for council's information there. Anybody want to speak to anything on there? Councilor Craven?
Yeah, I just want to speak to 1210 about the closing of the fire college. I have mixed feelings on this. The fire college has trained a lot of volunteer firefighters in the past, and they do a great job. But I suspect it's an economical move on the province's part to close this, because there are regional training centers that are set up around all of Ontario. I believe one is down at Blythe already, has been there for a while. Maybe this would be an economical change for the province to close the fire college. But like I say, I do have some mixed feelings on it, because fire college has done an excellent job in the past, And I wouldn't want to lessen the training of the volunteer firefighters because they are an important part of our system.
Chief Richardson? Do you want
Yes,
to get out a bit?
yeah, we had a conference with all the Ontario fire chiefs last week. There was a big push to keep the fire college open by some fire chiefs, but majority said the way we're operating now through regional training centers is working more efficiently. We have our own in Wellington County now. Blythe is shut down now. We have Waterloo West Track, which is another training facility we use sometimes too. But they're only getting 3,200 students through a year. We're trying to certify 420 fire departments with volunteers and full-time with an average of 60, 70 firefighters each one. So we're not even close to keeping up with the certification in the province by just running the fire college. So it's kind of been pushed out of place.
Thank you, Chief. Very good information to add there. I totally understand Councillor Craven having a provincial college being shut down for regional ones. It's a different way of doing business, right? And I know that going to the Ontario Police College, if they're regionalizing that would be a totally different way of doing it as well. And that might be next. So I totally understand where you're going, but thank you, Chief, for the information from the Chiefs conference you went to. Councillor Ottens.
This is about another piece
Go
of
ahead.
correspondence. Number 12.1, the GRCA report. Page 127 on our agenda shows how much the percentage of each levy that's going up. And I'm just wondering, is there any way we can find out why Mapleton's percentage is going up 5.5%? It's the third highest on all of them. And I just wonder if it's a 2.5% increase average, why does that not go across the board? Why is ours going up by $4,500? Especially because there's no capital or special projects in the Conestoga Lake Conservation Area, which is in Mapleton. So I'm just wondering why we're paying so much more this year.
Clerk Wheeler, do you have an answer for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have an answer for that, but I can certainly start the process of finding out tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I don't have an answer either. I saw that number, and the Credit Valley one is similar. We don't have much in that watershed, but we seem to be paying a little bit more than I thought we could.
In
Sorry.
Maitland Valley, you mean?
Maitland Valley, sorry, yes.
Yeah. Well, and if there was a big project going on this year at Conestoga Lake, that would be understandable, but I don't really understand what our extra $4,500 is getting us without something special. So yeah, I would like to know why, how it's calculated. Thank you.
Maybe I'll send a message over to Mayor White, who from Guelph Massa, who is now the chair of the GRCA board there. So maybe he's got an answer since he was the one that helped pass that budget. But we'll let Clerk Wheeler do his magic over there. Councillor Craven, did you have another?
Or maybe we could ask Bruce Whale what to come to a council meeting to explain that.
Yeah, we can do that as well. Anybody else want to speak to any other item on there? Councillor Martin.
I'll just piggyback on Councillor Otten's. The 2.5% levy increase. Well, it's not as bad as what you guys did at the county. You know, this was the year, had to get that in there. This was the year where every place was looking for, you know, cost savings and to try and mitigate any sort of increase that was coming along. And I mean, I get the Conservation Authority. They're in a pretty unique position. I would argue even different than a municipality. And while it's not 3%, it's not 1%. So I mean, I would have loved to see something a little, you know, a little closer to what we did, to be honest. That's just me.
It is you. You're consistent. I will give you that. Absolutely. Anybody else? I'll just mention in there, you do have the county roads, notice of commencement of the road master action plan. There's, you can go on and their website there and put down where you think problems are in the county and what, give us some ideas. It's a great way to get their voice heard, not just for members of council, but for the whole community. If anybody wants more information on that, there is information on page 181 of our agenda on that one. Anything else on this? We had quite a few on there, so. All right. Going down to item number 13. Any notices of motion? Any other business on item 15? No other business? Then we do have a closed session. I'm going to do a rise and report from the closed session that we convened on January 26, 2021. And a report out that we discussed in the closed session, review and adoption of the closed session minutes dated December 8th, 2020, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, including a report prepared by ILOT Group, and labor relations or employee negotiations, verbal update by CAO Manny Barron. That's a report out on that. Now I'm going to be doing item 17. We're at the confirmatory bylaw stage. I need a mover and a seconder that the bylaw number 2021-15, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the Township of Mapleton, be hereby read first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with a corporate seal, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Ottens with a big smile. All those in favor? That's carried. And we do have a closed session, but this council session is adjourned and we'll go into a closed.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Larry, do we have a closed?
As far as I know, we don't actually, but
Oh, and I thought we did. Well, there we go. So we're just adjourned then. I just wanted everybody off the line so we can just have a chat now, right?
That's why none of us left. We're like, what?
I just wanted to see if Manny was still awake because, you know, his camera's been off for a while.
Well,
Probably,
the reason why that is because I kept cutting in and out and I'm not sure why. So I just turned off. I didn't want to take all my bandwidth with the camera.
Can I just ask a little casual question here?
Hold on a sec.
hang on a sec. What is the 747-662, Larry?